Welcome to Statheros Homeschooling, where confident homeschooling thrives. Homeschooling is not school at home, it's a way of life. We encourage, empower, and equip you to cultivate the authentic homeschool lifestyle where freedom and relationships rule.
Hey, friend, welcome to season 4 of Statheros Homeschooling. This season, we want to answer questions that we repeatedly get through emails, DMs, and questions in our Facebook group. We have looked through all of the questions that have been submitted, and we found that most of the questions fall into 10 to 12 general categories. So today, Kim and myself, Stacy, would like to tackle the question of time management, routine, and consistency.
Have you ever just looked up at the clock, Stacey, and realized it is 3 o'clock in the afternoon and these math books are still sitting here closed? Like the pencil's exactly where I left it yesterday. We've all been there. And with homeschooling and sometimes just in life, time can feel very slippery. Like, where did it go? And all of a sudden, here you are, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We totally get it. We've been there. And like you said, we're often asked about how to navigate time management, routines, how to stay consistent. This episode, going to dive into all of that. Hopefully, you'll walk away with more clarity, a few practical tools, and the grace to keep going strong.
This whole topic of time management, routine, consistency, we have explored in previous episodes. So this is not new information, but we wanted to condense it down into a shorter podcast and give you the highlights. And then at the end, we will refer you back to exact episodes in our previous seasons where you can dig in for further information. The first point that Kim and I wanted to go over today is that you don't need to stress about a schedule. A lot of people come into homeschooling thinking that you need to have a schedule like public school has a schedule. You need to start at 8 and end at 3. You need to figure in bathroom breaks and lunch breaks and have a rigid schedule, and you don't. We at Statheros really advocate routines and rhythms instead of schedules. You might have a schedule for, let's say, a co-op day, or if you have to be somewhere for a evening or afternoon activity or a sports practice or something like that. And of course, you'll build your daily schedule, weekly schedule around that activity. But in general, if you just have a routine or a rhythm, then you can build in these guidelines, or as we say, guardrails, and then you have the flexibility to move around in the middle. Another benefit of this versus a schedule is that a routine can create emotional safety and predictability for your kids. And also, to be honest, in real life, schedules are hard sometimes. And when you feel like you're failing at keeping your schedule, you feel like you're failing at homeschooling. And those are two completely different things. You don't have to have a rigid schedule to be a successful homeschooler. And the homeschool lifestyle isn't 8 to 3. We homeschool 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So just keep in mind, you don't need that schedule. Focus on routine, rhythm, and consistency.
Absolutely. And we like to think about that analogy. I'm sure most people have seen it, the big rock in a jar analogy, where you've got your jar, your pile of big rocks, your pile of medium rocks, and then all of your sand. And how do you fit it all in the jar? The trick is you put in your big rocks first, and then you start filling in the gaps with the things that are a little bit less important or just the extras, you all the way down to the sand. That's really helpful as we're thinking about planning and routines and consistency. If you think about defining what are your top 3 homeschool priorities, maybe in your family it's math because your kids are great readers and that's no big deal, or maybe it's the other way around. Or maybe you want to really highlight what are your family values? What are your spiritual goals this year for your kids? And focus on those things. Or maybe it's more life skills based. Think about what's important to you as a family and start there and work your way backwards. We're big on working our way backwards. What's the goal? And then work backwards from that. As you're making your plans, keep some white space on the calendar for your kids and for yourself. That buffer time, it's like your best friend. And that can be buffer time within a day, or it can be just generally spaced out on your calendar. Within a day, if you have something planned every single minute, you're just going to drive yourself crazy and your kids too. And you're going to be really feeling frustrated and stressed out at the end of the day. We say back up from that, build in that buffer time. We did this in the classroom too. Maybe I had scheduled a half an hour for spelling and we only took 20 minutes. That's fine, but I'd rather have that extra wiggle room in case someone's having trouble with it. So that's really helpful. And we also like to remind you as parents, moms, dads, grandparents, whoever is working with the kids, remember to plan in time for yourself as well, whether it's one day a week out of the house by yourself or whatever that looks like for you in all practicality, just that time to get that sort of headspace. When are you going to do the things that you need to do to care for your home and yourself? When are you going to get your hair done? When are you going to have a date night with your husband? Friend time, coffee with a friend, stuff like that. Moving on to practical things, as you're planning, as you're looking at your calendar, one helpful tool is to think in terms of anchor points. Okay, so think, what is your family's natural rhythm? Start there. Are you early birds or are you slow starters? Do you get going more later in the day? Maybe your family's kind of a mix. It's okay to work with that natural rhythm of your particular family. Your anchor points might look something like this. It might be in the morning, you have your start or meeting time together. A lot of families like to do that. Then they have a reset at lunch. Everybody takes a break from the academics. And maybe you have a read aloud time. Afternoon, you might have rest time, depending on the age of your kids, or extra activities or free time. Evening is your wind down time. These anchor points are really helpful. Another way that might look is some kids, if your kids are mixed in how they approach their days, like I had an early bird and one kid that got his best work done in the middle of the night. This might change with the ages of your kids too. But you can let your kids start on their own in the morning and use a checklist to anchor them. And then you fill in those blanks later. A couple of pro tips with this sort of mindset: try to build in some rewards when your family works really well together, or to motivate individual kids to stick with the program and not just wander off somewhere. Like, where did Johnny go? I have no idea. He's in the basement playing Legos. Okay. Rewards. And then also, we're really big on using some sort of checklist or even chore systems early on, as soon as possible, helping them to learn how to be independent. I had a whiteboard system I've talked about before where you write things out the night before or teach them to write things out, what they need to get done on a whiteboard or eventually into a planner, and teach them to mark things off. Those to-do lists, it sounds so simple, you guys. It really is. It's a life skill. Even today, we do it as adults, right? We make our to-do lists, we check them off, it feels good, and we teach that early on. Teens, especially, can be independent. They can have a daily check in as their anchor point with you. Teach them to use their planners, and whether it's once a day or once every other day, whatever that looks like in your family, that helps. One other way to think of this is in terms of time blocking. Some families in the morning, their focus is academics. This is very common. The afternoon is chores and free play time before dinner. Some families switch that, and it's okay. So think about in terms of larger blocks of time, what that looks like in your particular family. I know it sounds a little vague, but honestly, that's meant to be freeing. That's our goal. Free you up to do things the way that is best for your particular family and to enjoy that.
Welcome to Statheros Academy. We are an umbrella school that fulfills legal reporting requirements for homeschoolers in Colorado. But all of our services like transcripts, diplomas, IDs, and coaching are available no matter where you live. Don't forget to check out our store for homeschool essentials like attendance logs, planners, report cards, and DIY high school transcripts. Whether you need help with paperwork, planning, support, or guidance on your homeschool journey, Statheros Academy is here to support you. Visit theumbrellaschool.com to learn more.
And then lastly, one technique that a lot of families use is called a looping schedule. That phrase is a little bit newer, but a lot of people, it's getting real popular. We see it out there a lot. Essentially, it's just where you prioritize at least a couple of subjects per day. Typically, it's math and language arts, especially in the lower grades. And then, for example, after that, on Monday, you work on science and you start history. And on Tuesday, after you get your solids in there, your math and language arts, you finish history. and start on art. And the next day you repeat that and you're looping through those extra subjects, making sure you get your solids in for sure first. So a lot of people are really leaning into that technique these days. But in general, you're rotating your subjects. You don't cover them all, but you don't have to do all the subjects all the days. You definitely have freedom in doing this. And all of these tips and techniques work well for families of all sizes.
A lot of newer homeschool parents also think they have to do every single subject every single school day. So that's a really good tip, Kim, that you don't have to do, especially the specials or the extras, particularly in elementary school, every single day. Yeah, science and history and music and art and all those things. And it also gives your kids something to look forward to when you do that looping schedule. If you're rotating, I like that idea of looping through the subjects.
Me too.
Also, when you focus more on consistency, rhythms, and routines, like we're discussing, you can move away from that myth that sometimes pops up, which is the perfect homeschool day. I know that you've seen on Instagram, like I have, perfect homeschool rooms and perfect homeschool curriculum, perfect homeschool children, all having the perfect homeschool day. And that's just not real.
Yeah.
It's not real life. Even if it is at the beginning, you can't sustain it that long. When you have those days where you look back and you're like, man, did my kid even learn anything because you derailed from your plan? Look back and realize what they did learn that day. Maybe you had to make a meal for somebody who was in the hospital and that was totally unexpected. So you put aside history or science or even math or language arts for a couple hours to make that meal. Your child just learned how to put the needs of others in front of themselves. Maybe they helped you bake. Maybe they helped you deliver it and they got to see gratitude on the face of the person. Maybe you had a conversation in the car on the way about why we didn't do math today because this is more important. Or maybe your child woke up sick and you think, oh man, now we're going to be off track. If I don't do lesson 79 in math, we're not going to get to 80 by Friday. The whole week's ruined. Well, that's not true. We encourage you to take a step back from that myth of the perfect day and redefine your success. Learning happens, even if your schedule doesn't look like you wrote it out. And pro tip, always write your schedule in pencil, never pen. Learning still happens. Success still happens. Focus on the learning you did complete, whether it was social emotional learning, whether it was spiritual learning, academic learning, they're all important. And when you have that rhythm and that consistency, it takes the pressure off to have the perfect day every single day.
Absolutely. I like how you mentioned, what if your kid wakes up sick? That made me think too. What if you have some sort of trauma in your family that pops up? You can be okay knowing that this is going to work out. If you just keep this routine, this consistency, this rhythm, in the end, it does all come together. So be confident in that. Back to talking about writing things down in pencil. When I was teaching, we had to turn in lesson plans the week before for the next week and do all those things. And so when I started homeschooling, I was real big on the teacher's planner and writing it all out ahead of time. I at least knew enough to write in pencil. It got a little bit frustrating at the beginning because I realized, oh, I'm erasing or I'm drawing arrows. I'm starting to use Post-it notes and I'm putting them ahead and I'm feeling really like a failure. And boy, that was tough. Then I realized, wait a minute, I'm going to flip the script. I'm going to think about what did I get done today? And I'm going to write that down at the end of the day. And don't you know, by the end of the week, the first week I did that, I looked back and I thought, wow, look at all we did. And yeah, a lot of it was academic and maybe it was like social or spiritual or all those things that fit together for that whole education. But it was definitely a lot more pleasant experience. Sure, plan ahead, for, absolutely. But also don't be afraid to flip the script, write things down that you finished.
And again, when you are consistent, that will build your confidence and your children's confidence. But remember, consistency is imperfect. No one is perfect. You are not. I am not. Kim is not. None of us are. Our children are not. But we learn and we grow. And as long as we are being consistent, the kids will learn by rhythm and repetition. And they will learn through our imperfect consistent working with them through subjects, through social emotional learning, through family relationships, all of that. And really, that's how we learn at our careers, and that's how we learn in our adult relationships as well. Every friendship you have isn't perfectly perfect every single day. There's ups and downs. And so you're really teaching your kids a life skill by being consistent, showing up consistently but imperfectly. And remember, you are building habits in yourself and in your children, but don't focus on hustle so much. I think in our world today, we have this hustle mentality. We have side hustles and everybody's hustling for something. Really, in homeschooling, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So the habits matter more than the hustle. And don't underestimate the power of doing it again tomorrow. Just that being consistent.
Right. Just having that grace as you're planning, grace for yourself, grace for your family, all of those things. That's so well said. Just a few final thoughts there. It helps to build in margin as you're planning. And we're modeling this flexibility to our kids. We're teaching our kids that it's okay to give ourselves permission to press pause and hit the reset button. In fact, that's a really good habit to have, to pause, to reflect what went well this week, this month, to reset things, to recalibrate, to ask each other what's working, what's not working, what needs adjusting. And it is really helpful and a good idea to include your kids as you do these things, modeling and teaching them eventually to do all of these things for themselves. We're working ourselves out of a job. And time management is about living intentionally. It's not squeezing more in, like you're saying, Stacey, about the hustle. It's important to work hard and everything, but we want to live intentionally and also graciously. And we think about what is important to us as a family, to our individual family. Cover what's important to you. The rest will come. The rest will fill in the gaps naturally. And there's a saying that you're doing more than you think. It matters more because not only are you getting things done, but you're training and you're leading and teaching your kids, not just academically, but in life skills. As we close, we want you to remember that time is a tool for you to use. Don't let it be a tyrant over your life, over your homeschool. Take charge knowing that it's your homeschool. These are your children. And you get to shape this and shape them the way that you're being led to do. What's one small change that you might want to think about trying this week? Something to think about. Then please don't forget to go back and listen to the episodes that Stacey mentioned earlier, the podcast episodes we've already done in season 1, episodes 18 and 19 about how to plan your homeschool year. And then season 2, episode 1 about mindset. And in season 3, we had episode 6, schedules and consistency. If you go back and listen to those again in Statheros Homeschooling podcast, I think you'll be encouraged. So we will link these in the show notes. Happy homeschooling.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode. We hope that you enjoyed the conversation and found it insightful. Be sure to check out today's show notes for all applicable links and additional resources. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. Your support helps us continue to bring you great content. Until next time, happy homeschooling.